What's up, guys? What's going on? So we're going to talk a little bit about today's trade with ORGO, and we're going to talk about a setup that occurred with HIMS, and then lastly we'll talk about MOGO, a good-looking setup that's occurring and working out right now. So right now we're in ORGO. I've been looking at this for the past couple of days for a good entry. As you can see here, this is the daily chart. I like the Heikin-Ashi candles because they smooth out price action. I like the MACD indicator, the RSI, and then volume, which shows me a separation between the bid and the ask, how many buy orders versus sell orders there were. Each line that you see is a resistance area. Okay, so each of these straight lines is an area of either resistance or support. And then these are some confirming areas where the price has hit those areas of either resistance or support to confirm that theory. So right here, 1436, if I were to take an entry, hold on, we've got a good train going by. It's the golden hour here in Washington. If I were to take an entry at 1534, then my stop would be 1436 because that's the next level of support. Anything below that is a sign that I need to get out, right? It shouldn't be crashing below two levels of support. It should hold at 1534 and start to rebound. If it breaks through 1534, then I watch it closely, and then if it breaks through this level as well, 1436, the next level of support, then something's wrong. My target is the next level of resistance, which is 1822. And we can see each of these resistance areas and support areas confirmed in the past. The stop loss area is confirmed right here as resistance in the past and also support right here. We see that the entry level right here is confirmed as support. And right here we see it settling in this area. And then resistance, we see a number of multiple taps right here in this area, and support right here, and support in this range, and resistance in this range. So we've got a good feeling about these levels being pretty strong. Some signs that I really like: the company was in a really nice uptrend starting in January of this year, the very beginning of this year. Absolute uptrend, beautiful uptrend all the way up to $24, it looks like, from $7.76. And then naturally it got pulled back all the way down to about $15.30 recently, as low as $14.74. So whenever something like that happens, when you get a big sell-off, I like to go straight to FinBiz to see if there's a reason for the sell-off. And you can find that in the news. Right here, you can see anywhere where you see a big red number and a percentage sign is usually going to be an indication that something happened connected to that news report. So it looks like their earnings call in May wasn't that great. All right, so that's part of what caused the turnaround. Tech stocks taking a beating. Looks like this also caused a turnaround for them as well. So the good news about this is, all companies have bad earnings reports from time to time. So that's not something that's incredibly alarming. It just means that they recently had a bad earnings report, and if they can turn it around and do better in the future, then their stock will become more valuable. So we're looking for a dip entry on this trade. You can see around May is where the stock started to fall down. Fell down even more during the recent earnings report right here. That was the bad earnings report, fell down even more, and now it's starting to settle out as everyone has already digested that bad news. And as we saw earlier with the May report, this one was from May, as we can see. So cool, awesome. So we're looking for a bounce here after a significant sell-off. There's a couple of things that signifies that the stock is ready to turn around. Number one, if you use Heikin-Ashi candles like I do, then a green Heikin-Ashi candle is the start of a new trend, possibly, right? Some of them are more confusing, like the crosshair looking thing here. The doji is what they call it. Dojis are a little tricky, right? They can go in either direction, like this one right here can go in either direction. But when you have a strong candle, like this one, even if it's small without a tail at the bottom, it usually signifies an uptrend. No tail at the bottom for this candle, this first initial green candle, uptrend follows. No tail for this small green candle, uptrend follows. This one has a bit of a tail, but an uptrend still follows. This one, no tail, uptrend follows for a couple days, and then it gets pulled back a little bit. This one might be an area where it didn't happen, but you can start to get a sense of, okay, when a no tail happens, then usually you can get a pretty powerful move. And what you're hoping for is follow through. This one had a pretty powerful move on this single day, but didn't have any follow through. So this candle, this daily chart candle for today, is a great candle to look at. This looks really good for a trade. Okay, this looks really good. So we're already in this trade. I'll show you some things that we're looking for. So on a daily chart, we're looking for a significant sell-off, and you can see that right here. Right? And we want that sell-off to be connected to something natural. Earnings report is natural. That's perfectly fine. Companies go through bad earnings reports all the time, right? We don't want it to be anything fraud related or, any criminal activity or anything like that. Bad earnings is fine. So we see a downtrend here, a downtrend into support right here. And the next thing that we'd like to see is a breakout of this downtrend, right? That will signify a new pattern. Some other things that we see to show that this sell-off is starting to decrease is we see that the price action is responding to this support level. It responded here, broke out, came back up, and then you see big red candles. And then as it gets closer to these support levels, the candles start to get smaller and smaller and smaller before finally changing trend recently, right? And so now what we'd like to see is that follow through, as I mentioned. So price is showing confirmation. And then the MACD is also showing confirmation, where we see this massive sell-off here in this area, right? Massive sell-off and momentum for the stock. And then we start to see that momentum settle out and go back up and start to create some demand, right? Creates a little bit of demand right here, but unfortunately that demand runs into this resistance area, this wall. A number of different forms of resistance. We got horizontal resistance, diagonal resistance going down, a number of resistance in this area here, right? And so then it gets pulled back down. It can't break through. So then the MACD starts to turn negative again, but then now it's starting to turn positive again. And what we should expect to see here tomorrow, or definitely within the next 2 days, is a positive MACD signal. Okay, so we'll be watching out for that. That's going to be additional confirmation. And then lastly, the RSI, right? We see a level right down there that you guys can see, right in this area, we'll say, right? You see when it tapped this level, started to respond and try to go higher. When it taps this level, gets in this area, tries to respond and goes higher. When it taps this level again, which it was just at, it tried to break out and go higher. So this portion of it is actually today's movement, in which it tapped this level, started to curl out, and today it finally broke out after touching this level and went higher. So the RSI is also responding. So the next thing we'd like to see on the RSI is a breakout of about this level here, pretty close to here, or here, that level right there. Gets above 44, then we can start to make some movement. Of course, when it gets above this level, 50, then it's essentially on the other side. It's in the middle of that RSI, and it's starting to swing towards being completely out of oversold territory, okay, which is another good sign for bulls. Okay, so this is the 1 day chart. The other charts I like to look at are the weekly charts. So we'll go to max for the weekly. That doesn't look great, so we'll go to 2 years weekly, and then what we see is this massive uptrend for the past weeks, and then finally this downtrend, starting to settle out around the support area, similar thing to what we see on the daily chart. So what we'd hope to see is that momentum starting to shift. We won't be in this trade for weeks, but it is good to get a perspective of what the weekly chart looks like. So then lastly, I'll go over to the hourly chart, 30 days, basically 1 month, and an hour for each time. And what we see is the same support and resistance lines, right? You can see for the past 30 days, once the stock got in this area, it responded by trying to bounce off this level. It tried to stay in this area and then got pulled back down. But then it tried to use this area as resistance and tried to break back above it. Finally got above it a little bit and then got pulled back down aggressively. And then found support in this level, the next support level, tapped it perfectly, and then responded very well, got pulled all the way up to the next resistance level again, even got above it in pre-market, and then got dragged down as soon as the market opened. And then stayed at this resistance level, attempting to break out of it for a couple of days before finally getting pulled back down for an entire day of no positive momentum, just ripped apart. And so now we start to see the candles get smaller. You see the candles are super tiny here, starting to build some momentum. And then today we finally have a really nice breakout above this support level here. So what we'll be looking for is, continuation. I expect it to run into resistance at this downtrend line of resistance right here. And then if it can break above that, then that will be really significant for it to have an actual confirmed breakout above 1822. That'll show the bulls that this thing is actually ready to break out of this downtrend and ready to push forward. So we got a lot of great signals. The RSI is a little bit overbought right now, but we'll see how that looks tomorrow. So great signs on the 1 hour, 30-day chart as well. Okay. So that's what we're looking for. We wanted to take a trade around 1534. We ended up getting in around 1550 because this morning, as I was watching it, literally the first candle, I was watching this thing carefully, and it was right at that 1534 level, and I like to wait to see a confirmed breakout. And this thing just exploded straight through and went straight to 1550. So pulled back a little bit to about 1546 right here, which is where I got in. And then it started to rip and never came back down to retest this level. So I decided to get in because the way it broke out of that level, it was pretty aggressive and made me think that it might not come back down to retest 1535 for a better entry. If it did retest that level, then I could have added some shares down at that level. But I wanted to make sure I at least had some shares in the game when it broke through cleanly. So that's where we are. Nice breakout this morning. Went straight to, this. Looks like that's actually tested that downtrend line. Let's see if we can zoom out of this really quickly. We'll do a, 15-day 1 minute or something. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys saw that. That was a little weird. It didn't really go to 1673. It was touching that line. So it might be a little glitch with Thinkorswim, but all good. All right, so that's the trade scenario for this one. Looks really good for this setup. We're going to stay in it until about 1822. We'll watch it, reevaluate it around 1670 to see if it can break through that level, and then we'll take it from there. We'll see how that goes. So the next thing that we're looking at, the next couple of trades will be very quick analysis. We're also looking at HIMS, HIMS, for a potential trade. HIMS, same thing, guys. Any horizontal lines that you see are either support or resistance. And then same thing that we're looking for, I'm going to put this on a year-to-date 1-day chart. Same thing that we're looking for with the other stock chart where, we want to see a downtrend. When we look at the stock on FinViz, we don't want to see extremely negative news. We just want to see normal news, bad earnings, market conditions, things like that. Nothing related to fraud or anything. And we saw that with this stock as well. This stock has a somewhat different story. It's got this downtrend, it's been being down, and then you've got this medium level downtrend right here. right, where it tried to break out of, finally got above it right here, broke out, and then hit a level of resistance right here, and then got pulled back. So, we'll see what it looks like. It did bounce off this level very cleanly today at 1196, and then ran all the way up before finally closing at about 1290 or something like that. So, this was a good trade if you want like just $1 of a move. I didn't expect such a nice move today on this one. But that was also a good trade. So some things I don't like as much. The MACD has been extremely positive, and so it does need some sell-off momentum now, or you would at least expect to see some sell-off momentum. The RSI is much higher, so that leads me to, and then it just had this clean recent run of bullish demand. So that leads me to believe there's got to be some sort of significant pullback a little bit. We'll see. It might just level out and use all of its selling pressure right at support and just hover in this area, and then once it exhausts the bears, then finally breaks out. That might take some time, so we'll watch this to see how it develops. So this is one that's also on the list of things to watch. And then the one to watch for the future that we like from today's scan is MOGO, M-O-G-O. So same thing, you guys are seeing a pattern, horizontal lines here for support or resistance. We see a breakdown in price action, nothing related to bad fundamentals of the company. In fact, we'll take a look at it together just to see, just to make sure. So we go straight to the news, looking for that right there, expands crypto portfolio, that's not bad. Shelf expiring shelf prospects, not horrible. Puts MOGO in the major lead, not horrible. Google, lithium. So yeah, nothing that looks corrupt, right? Let's see, acquire, agreement to acquire Canadian broker. Yeah, nothing that looks corrupt, okay? So that's a great sign for us that we might be just getting this stock for cheap, which is good. We see a nice uptrend. Recently went all the way up to about $12, was as low as $3.84. So that's a really nice move. It didn't happen all at once. It had weeks of this continued momentum, so that's a great sign as well. And then you see this sort of channeling sideways in a descending triangle, right? And so now what we would expect to see, it's just been hovering at this level. This 719 level has been extremely strong, right? We can see that over and over, time and time again, in this area, can't forget this area, this entire area here, this entire area here, and now it's there again. So the difference though this time is it's been respecting this descending resistance line, right? You can see that it tapped it here and respected it. It started here and then also hit it here, and it's just been grinding across it here, right? It's just been tapping it over and over and over again, and that's called pressure to the downside, right? It's pushing it down. Now eventually with pressure, the way pressure normally works is if you hold something underwater that has air in it, right, eventually when you let it go, it's going to balloon to the top. It's going to quickly explode to the top. So we would expect to see something like that with this, where if it finally gets out of this pressure area, that it would explode up and make a really nice move to the upside. Okay, so this one looks really good. Really what I'm looking for on this is just, a break above this descending line here, and then a nice green Heikin-Ashi candle on the daily chart, and then some momentum to shift, right? So the things I also like about the MACD here is the MACD has been mostly negative. If you look, you see this entire area is much larger than the green areas, the small, tiny green areas that we've had, right? And so what that tells us is that there's been mostly selling pressure on this stock. And, if you know anything about stocks, stocks move in waves. So eventually this selling pressure has got to, subside and switch to the alternate, which is demand and buy-in pressure. Okay, So it's been mostly filled by selling pressure. Those have been the biggest uh, pieces of action that's been happening lately with this stock. So that's a great sign, and you can see that the other thing is this selling pressure was massive, the biggest of all of them. Then this one was big as well, but the next one that followed was really big, right? And then this one was much smaller, and then what we'd hope to see is for a really small sell-off here, and then finally a really nice um, green bullish pattern. You can see the opposite, where that was a super small. Let's take a look at this real quickly. This is a super small demand, super small amount of demand, and then it just started to get larger. And what we'd hope to see is something that's significantly larger with demand going forward for the next round of demand. So this is showing a lot of signs, good signs on the RSI. It's still considered oversold. Completely oversold is much lower, of course, but I consider anything under 50 to be closer to selling off. Bears are still in control. Anything near 50, it's kind of equal, right? It's where it's anyone's game really. And then anything above 50, of course, the buyers are now in control. Okay, and then closer to 70, of course, overbought. Like the buyers are too in control. It's time to shift momentum. So this looks really good for a shift in momentum to the upside. So we'll be watching this one. Let's take a look at the other charts as well, just to make sure. 2-year weekly. Looks like for the weekly, it's been settling around this area. Same thing, same sort of setup that we're looking at with the daily chart. Starting to settle around this area. You see big, massive red candles, big, massive red candle, and then it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, which is a signal that that selling pressure is dying off. What we'd like to see is the next MACD candle that's red to be significantly smaller, to be somewhere down here, right, to show that those bears are losing momentum. Okay, so that's what we're looking for there. And then I also like to look at the monthly chart sometimes, just to see what's going on, see if I see anything different. Not much different there, not much information. Now let's lastly look at the 30-day 1 hour. I think I just did the day. There we go. All right, so you can see on the hourly chart, same thing, right, where it's been hit in this area, broke out of this area in pre-market, and then opened significantly lower and just got pulled down drastically that day. So this area is no joke. Then it hit that area again, same story, in pre-market, tried to break above, and it just got pulled down when the market opened, right? And then tapped this area here during the market open, got pulled down, tapped it again today, and then got pulled back down. So we're watching this, okay? We're watching this to see what happens very soon, to see if this thing can finally garner the momentum. But, however, what we'll watch, if you just take a look at this really quickly, let's draw that support line so you can see it on the hourly. We'll draw it right here, because that's where it is, right? 719, just about. Now let's go back to that hourly chart. Right here, you see that range where it broke below it, and it's been trading in that range. And now it's sort of respecting that area and not really getting below it. So we can expect a squeeze in this range here. So this looks good. This looks really good, and we'll see how this starts to play out for tomorrow. Looks like this thing can, if this thing can get the momentum to the upside and break above this cleanly, we can see a really nice move. So those are the two stocks on watch right now. We got MOGO, which we're really liking for a trade, and right now we're still in ORGO, letting that one play out and work out for us. If you guys have any questions about any of those trades, just feel welcome to reach out to me. All right, peace.